Greetings. I am Pillar Nexus, the Ancient Gladiator, today with Pillar Loves Tabletop Games, and I'm just as surprised as you are that I am doing the episode for the Doom board game from 2004. This game is 20 years old, by the way. So, in this game, there will be a scenario and a map, and players will have their Marines and their special abilities, and they will be trying to achieve the objectives of the scenario before the invader player kills Marines 6 times. Alternatively, when the deck runs out, it'll be reshuffled and the invader player will score a frag counting towards their victory. So, as part of the setup for the game, you'll start out with 2 armor, a number of wounds based on the number of players, and a number of ammo, bullets, and shells equal the number based on the number of players, as well as the special ability cards. The fewer the players, the more health and ammo and cards you will start with. You will also start with a set of special order tokens and your figure. The invader player will have their scenario information as outlined in the scenario guide. They will want to have the map tiles ready. Under normal circumstances, the tiles are not set up immediately beyond the starting room, and the figures aren't set up like this. This is primarily for demonstration purposes, but you'll want to have the tiles ready for what the scenario requires. The invader player also starts with 5 invader cards to do various things. The first player of the game will be the player to the left of the invader. So first Marine, second Marine, third Marine, invader will take their turn. All players will need a guide for enemy stats and weapon capabilities. It's good to be aware of, as a player, you want to know what enemies are capable of, and as the invader, you want to know what the Marines can do to you. So on a player's turn, they have to declare one of 4 things. There's advance. Player can move up to 4 spaces. They can move through friendly figures as long as they don't move, as long as they don't end their move on them, and they can move diagonally with no trouble. 2, 3, 4. We get closer. In addition, at any point during your movement, you can make an attack against an invader. For various figures, for zombies, imps, trites, all the way up to the cyber demon that you can attack. Alternatively, you can declare sprint to have 8 movement but no attacks. So again, starting from back here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So as you stop in equipment locations, you can pick them up for free. You can give weapons and ammo tokens to adjacent Marines during your move. That way you can spread weapons around so that one person doesn't have all of them. Now I'm going to put the weapons token in front of the equipment bin, but normally it goes on the info sheet. So it goes here. And that way I know I've got this weapon for that Marine. The ammo will go into the equipment bin, the ammo slot. Other things you can do with your movement, if you have two movements, you can open a door. The moment you open a door, if it's to a brand new area, the map pieces will be placed, the enemies will be placed, the equipment and other things will be placed. Then you can continue with whatever movement you still have. If you still have two movement left, you can shut the door and buy yourself a little bit of time. You cannot shut the door if there is a big figure blocking the way. You can open up a locked door provided your team has the appropriate key. Keys are not locked to are not kept to a single Marine. They're put here next to the compass rose, and the entire team can now use red doors. Instead of sprinting, you can unload. Provided you've got line of sight to the targets, you can make two attacks, but you cannot move. And finally, you can ready. You can move or attack, and as part of it, you'll have the option to place an order. Aim lets you discard the token before you make the attack to reroll the dice. Dodge, little shield. You, when someone attacks you, you can make them reroll their dice. Guard, equivalent of the Space Local Overwatch. You can discard it to make one interrupt attack against an invader figure that is moving or about to attack. If you ever take a wound, you will lose that order. Same with the aim. Presumably, you're going to use the dodge to avoid being hurt by the attack in the first place. So, actual attacks. First, you will need to declare the weapon that you are using. Everyone starts with their basic fist, which is a melee only attack and uses the red die. Melee attacks do not require you to have um, the range. You just need to be adjacent, and then whatever the result is will be applied. You will have your pistol. It's got good range, but it's got crappy damage. And you'll have access to grenades if you just find explosive ammo just by itself. It's grenades let you like target a space, and as long as you make the distance, you'll hit the space and stuff around it. If you ever miss, though, it'll scatter, which will pull the top card of the invader deck and then proceed that way that many spaces. So 1, 2, 3, and it'll hit all those around there. So the full attack process. You will nominate the weapon that you're using. So let's say we've got this Marine has the machine gun, which provides a yellow, a blue, and a green die. You will nominate your target and then check line of sight. Line of sight is center of the square to center of the other square. If someone is in the way, you cannot shoot past them. You would have to shoot the nearer one. You cannot shoot through the walls or through blocking terrain. But as long as that line is clear, so target, roll your dice, count up the numbers in the bottom left. As long as that number is equal to or greater than the distance necessary, you will hit them. So 6 range, needing only 3, it's going to hit. You'll count the number of bullet holes and then compare it to the target's armor. So 3 bullet holes, and the zombie has 2 armor. That'll do a single wound to that zombie. The zombie can take up to 2 wounds in total. So if I'd rolled, like, let's see here. Let's say I'd rolled that instead. So 2 armor against 5 bullet holes is 2 damage in total, which is enough to remove the zombie. Other things that can happen with this roll, there's a bullet icon. When that happens, you will discard the ammo token. You need the ammo tokens of the appropriate types to make the attacks. Your only infinite ammo options are your fists and the chainsaw. Alternatively, you can miss. Any red or yellow die that comes up with the X is a miss. Eventually, you will be done with your Marine turn, and it will go to the next Marine's turn, and so on until it comes to the Invader. The Invader's turn. The Invader starts with cards, and they will draw a number of cards equal to the number of Marine players. So 3 cards. If you then have more than 8 cards, you'll have to discard down to 8 immediately. Your cards can do various things like react to Marine actions or improve your own actions. After you draw, you also have the option to spawn 1 card maximum. You will take the demon shown and put it into play out of the line of sight of the Marine players. So there's no center to here. So the closest the Mancubus can be is here. And then every active invader figure can move. Again, these aren't supposed to be here because this is demonstration purposes for how the scenario is supposed to. How I've chosen to truncate the scenario and modify it a bit. So each invader has its movements as a number on the top right. So zombies can move 3, but the Mancubus can only move 2. You can move and attack with each invader once. So it could get the zombie behind him and then make the attack. So there's 4. The Marines have 2 armor, so they're taking 2 damage. If you're discarding your player health, keep it nearby. You're gonna get it back when you respawn or you heal. Eventually, a Marine will run out of health. When that happens, the invader takes a wound token, that is their frag counter, and the Marine will need to respawn. Lay your figure down. They say to remove it, but if you're going to need to remember where they were in the first place, you're better off just laying it down. You need to respawn at least 8 spaces away, but not more than 16. So for 8, and that happens when you start your next turn. Once the invader player has finished moving and attacking with their figures, it goes back to the first Marine, and it'll continue on until the scenario is completed or the invader has 6 frags, at which point the invader will win. So each scenario is going to have its own special triggers and stuff and other conditions. So let's say for this one, the Marines get to this person, which removes them, and it gives them the red security key that they're going to need to get through the door. But as a consequence of that, it summons this Hell Knight as soon as this room is opened. Or if the room is already opened, then as soon as somebody grabbed the key. Things like that are going to happen. There might be opportunities that you'll have a limited time to achieve once the conditions are revealed. The invader also has options to mess with players along the way. I'm going to talk about one of the cards that the invader player has to work with here in a moment. But ultimately, the Marines are going to have to make the best use of their special abilities, the weapons available, the terrain, and line of sight, understanding the way that invader figures work, and not letting them get the advantage of their abilities as much as possible. So, why is it that I like this version of Doom, the board game? Well, first off, there's a crap ton of figures, and there's a ton of map components, so you can make gigantic levels. One of the ways the game scales is interesting. So I have all these figures and stuff, but like let's depending on what color Marines you're using, certain scenario enemies won't show up if you don't have them playing. Like this imp and this zombie are going to show up, period. You're just going to have to use whatever colors are available. But if we're not playing with a blue Marine, this zombie doesn't show up, this zombie doesn't show up, this zombie doesn't show up. And the figures that I already have here in blue, I'm going to have to represent with red or green. So that's the way that scales, which is interesting compared to the newer version that scales by giving people cards to keep up the number of main actions and maybe improve some marine health as well and hand size. But it's just an odd approach. It's an odd approach either way. The singular deck approach of this version, it's it's fine. I kind of like the other version's more strategic options for streamlining your strategy. But one of the things I prefer about this version is you can use cards to actually spawn more more enemies. That that one. You can spawn everything short of the Cyber Demon, including there's one Hell Knight card in there too. There is one thing that they had to errata in the expansion that I fully agree with, and would play by that rule even with this base game. Dud. As Dud originally reads, play at the start of your turn, force a Marine to discard one ammo token of your choice, which is absurdly cruel, even for a game about fighting demons from hell. The errata version is play when a Marine makes an attack roll that doesn't show the bullet icon. Treat it as having shown a bullet icon. So it will count as making them discard a ammo token, even if not already uh, using one, which I think is a lot more fair in terms of the challenge. The potential for making scenarios is a lot deeper here. Because they also do the same thing with Descent as well. It's just, you know, showing you the map and then showing you various. This is what you say when they enter this location. Stuff and other special conditions. Some of the maps get really freaking big though. So if you have a big table, then this is probably a good version to go with. But I like the approach the other game has with its scenario system, being able to it'll limit what demons you can work with, and it'll limit how many demons you'll get overall. But that flexibility to create scenarios that way is a little more interesting. Having to figure out maps for this one is going to be interesting as well. Trying to balance that out. Yeah, I think it's going to be easier trying to balance things out with the newer version. Uh, another thing I prefer with the newer version. Okay, they're not bad, but they could be so much better for the creature sculpts. That said, there's still some pretty impressive work to check out. Another thing, another thing. The approach to your actions for this game, I like a little bit more. The whole deck builder, your cards are going to affect what you can really do approach. Uh, I think it makes it a little bit more challenging that way, but that restrictiveness can kind of hurt at times. I don't know. They're both good games, and they're both worth checking out for their own merits. So, yeah, if whatever version of Doom on the tabletop appeals to you, check it out. It's just seems so perfect that a game that was inspired by a D&D campaign getting turned into its own kind of D&D type of game on the tabletop is hilarious and awesome. And I'm all here for it. So check it out. Doom the board game. Thank you for watching. This has been Pillar, and I will see you next time.